Welcome to another Girl Talk tonight as we unite our hearts with one of our beloved teen champions that serves with us on this ministry, this cause we call TiarasGirls. I don't know if you knew this, but our heart is to rewrite the stats of the girl of today, rewrite the stats in the area of teen suicide, self-harm, teen pregnancy. We believe that the girl was God's idea, and we have a multi-generational team that unites for this cause because we want every girl on the planet to know that she is loved by God, that she was created on purpose. And tonight I have the distinct pleasure and honor to unite us with one of our teen voices who is very close to my heart. Her name is Sam Lowe, and as I join us here with the beautiful gift of technology, would you guys help me welcome Sam Lowe to our Girl Talk today, whether you're watching this on live on Instagram or maybe you're watching this on YouTube at a later time. Sam, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
You are a beautiful girl. I know that your roots are from Jamaica, which
Yes.
we have seen. We have gone with our ministry to Jamaica, to your beautiful country, to crown girls and let them know that they're daughters of the King. And as we have this vision has unfolded, I know you've come alongside of us. You've been part of our Tiaras events, not just as the girl, but you've been there now as a champion, as part of the worship team. You help us think, you help us dream. I'm so thankful for your voice. I love that you are a teenager, that college-bound teenager, I should say, right? Senior year in high school.
Yes, this is my last year.
Last year,
Very
wow.
scary. Yes.
It's incredible that I've literally been able to see your teenage years unfold. And one of the reasons I'm excited to have you tonight with us is that I've noticed that you have found, or you're finding, your voice in this world. You're not allowing yourself to just be an echo, but you're finding your place. And I believe that you can help other girls be brave in that. So I've been eager to connect with you because Sam, I want to know, I want to know what's the biggest challenge, in your opinion, that teenagers are faced with today? Because things have changed. What's the biggest challenge you think that teens, hearing from a teen voice?
Great question. I think that one of the benefits of having these lives and listening to so many different perspectives is that we really see who has their like pulse on the teen heart. So I remember listening to Nikki and her testimony and her experiences and her insight into what teens today are facing. And I know that she said social media was one of the biggest things. And I could not agree more. I think social media is a really big kind of test of your like faith in humanity almost sometimes, and a big test in your strength, in your identity. But I want to go a bit like kind of expand on that and say that I think kind of one of the biggest things that teens today especially are facing is, kind of adolescent uncertainty on a large scale. So like when most people hit adolescence, kind of teenage years, you start learning like, oh, maybe adults don't know everything in the universe. And, maybe, there's like a lot of different things that, adults like basically that adults don't know the answers to everything. But you've kind of feel that on like large, like smaller scales, like, your car breaks down and you're like, Dad, what do I do? And they're like, I don't know, ask a mechanic. And then you're like, oh, maybe my dad's not like the all-knowing whatever. But then you come out of a pandemic and out of this turmoil of, racial tension and political tension. And you're like, Dad, what's the deal with the pandemic? And then he's like, I don't know. We're figuring it out as we go. So you're realizing that, not only do we not know what's going on, the people that we're told to go to when we don't know what's going on, they don't know what's going on either. So then you're seeing a lot of teenagers kind of develop this like, well, if nobody else is doing anything, then I can do something. So, you have a bunch of like, 14, 15-year-olds like trying to do their best and be activists and be all these things, which is fantastic because we are the next generation and it's important that we, care about these things. But also we're 14 and 15. There's only so much we can really do.
Right.
And when we've realized that, there's only so much we can do, then you see a lot of these teenagers kind of lose faith. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, being able to stand, firm in your faith in humanity, your faith in, your regular faith, your faith in God, as you know, we're both big parts of the church. Faith is definitely a big part of our lives. So,
Right.
you know, having these faith in the things that we've been grounded in all our lives, even in intense uncertainty, unlike anybody in the world has ever seen before. So I think that's one of our biggest trials today.
Wow. I was so eager to ask you that, to hear it from a teen herself
Mm-hmm.
that's walking the globe, because I don't believe you're the next generation. I believe you guys are the now generation. So
Mm-hmm.
to hear your perspective and to know that you're navigating that and so much more, it's so good, Nikki. I agree. That's so good that we were able to hear straight from her.
Yeah.
What is it like to be in high school today? What conversations are you hearing? I know that I feel like there's a self-worth crisis on the globe. I feel like
Yes.
so many girls don't know their identity. When we started Tiaras, Sam, I know that you
Mm-hmm.
were at one of our first events. Teen suicide was the third highest cause of death in
Yeah.
teen girls, especially 16-year-olds. Today, years later, it's now the second highest cause of
Mm-hmm.
death in teen girls. Is that even talked about in your circles? You know, is your generation aware of that?
Um, Geez, yes, we are. I think as much as I, you know, kind of talk bad about social media and talk about how, you know, it affects our, you know, visions of ourselves and our self-worth, that it has done one good thing and is like kind of spread the idea of like mental health awareness. So, you know, a lot of like common conversations I have with my friends are like anxiety, like our anxiety, you know, I have, you know, especially bad anxiety. So coming out of quarantine and isolation out of 1.5 years for like the past year and a half has been kind of like a big struggle for me. So it's, you know, it's great to be able to talk to my friends and, you know, open up about like, this has happened. You know, I feel this type of way and this type of way. What about you? And they're like, I feel the same way. So but you know, I'm privileged enough to have friends who are going through the same things I am and who I'm like comfortable enough talking to about, but a lot of teenagers don't have that, especially after a year and a half in quarantine. I know people who came in super popular, had all these friends, and by the end of quarantine they were gone. So I think that isolation, you know, just as I said before, political turmoil, racial tension,
Yeah,
just a lack of hope in the world has
yeah,
definitely caused that increase. Again, social media, it spreads so much good stuff, but also so much bad. I think
yeah,
there are a lot of different factors that make it super plausible that there's such a high, you know, risk of self-harm and, you know,
yeah.
suicide in teenage girls.
Yeah, thank you for your vulnerability in that we know that statistics tell us 1 in 2 girls battles anxiety
Mm-hmm.
today. It's 1 in 2 girls that has gone through a divorce or a broken home, which also adds to our trauma, to our pain. We know that 1 in 3 girls today is violated by the age of 10
Mm-hmm.
sexually. And those are the girls that are brave enough to say it's happened to me, right? That they can
Right.
articulate it. There's just so much trauma, so much pain. And a lot of times, I love that you feel like you can have an outlet and you have connection points, you have safe friends. So
Mm-hmm.
many girls believe they're the only ones walking through it. They're the
Yeah.
only ones on the planet going through this because maybe they don't feel either safe enough or valiant enough
Mm-hmm.
or have those connection points that maybe you have.
Right.
What would you tell the girl that maybe feels alone or maybe she's feeling suicidal? She's thought about it. We know that if they start cutting, 1 in 2 girls
Mm-hmm.
cuts today, and volunteering in student ministry and doing tiaras now for 9 years, I've seen the girls' arms at our events
Mm-hmm.
globally. It's a global phenomenon. Once a girl starts to cut, suicide is just one of those next steps. So, what
Right.
would you maybe as a teen champion, a girl of faith, a girl that has found her voice, what would you tell that girl that maybe has is contemplating, she feels lonely or she feels that the pain is overwhelming? How would you encourage her tonight?
Oof. Can I be vulnerable for a moment? Kind of
Please,
open?
please.
Yeah.
This is girl talk. This is
Uh, I remember like I know you sent me like a lot of these questions in advance, like especially like what would you tell to the girl contemplating suicide? And I read that as what would you tell Samantha Lowe from 6 months ago who was stuck in isolation and didn't know where else to go? And it was kind of like, you know, kind of a flashback moment because I was like, I remember feeling that way. I remember feeling that way for like so long and not knowing, you know, where to go or what else to do. And it's really just that, you know, kind of the thought that I always held to was that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Like, yes, pain never goes away. Throughout life, we, you know, the type of pain that we go through develops and, you know, kind of shifts forms, but it's never constant. Like, there are moments of beauty as much as there are moments of pain. So, like, you know, it's just realizing that, you know, you're not the only one going through this. There are so many, you know, resources and so many, you know, ways you can explain like what's going on to people and kind of connect to people who are going through the same things that you're going through.
Yeah.
And then there's also the idea like it won't last. Like the pain, the emotions that you're going through, it never stays around for too long. There's so much beauty in the world. Like I kind of joke and say I romanticize my life because you know sometimes being able to recognize like, oh, you know, there's like the morning blooms outside of my house that like bloom. Like how can I possibly miss that? Or like, you know, the next Marvel movie comes out in next spring. How can I possibly miss that? My favorite artist is releasing a song at midnight tonight. How could I miss that? There's so many good things in the world that I wouldn't be around for if, you know, I decided to take my life. So it's just, you know, this pain is temporary. There's so many people out there who are going through the same things you're going through. So just hold on, I think, just to
Yeah.
summarize all that.
Yeah, thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. If you and I can literally feel God's presence on an Instagram live. Like I could feel his presence. I'm full of goosebumps. I know when it's him. And I know that it pleases him that when we are vulnerable, when we're transparent, because when he moved us to start Tiaras, it started with a dream and then another vision, a dream. He literally whispered to me, Lily, I want you to go from nation to nation and tell my daughters that I love them. Where they're committing suicide. Look at the numbers. I mean, he was the one that urged me. And it's a very real thought. I have myself felt so much pain. Just a few years ago, I was in so much pain. I felt like I was in the middle of a death valley. You literally hear the enemy tell you, just ram your Jeep into that truck or just stop right here so that a truck can hit you. And then it'll be over. The pain will be over. We know those whispers come from the enemy. We know that God is love, and we know that Satan is the absence of God. Satan is evil, and the Bible refers to him as our greatest adversary, our greatest enemy. And some of us as teen girls don't even know that we have an adversary, that he can start whispering to us, that he speaks to us in ways that will make us doubt or want to just, it's not that we don't want to live, we just want the pain to go away, right? And I feel like so many girls are giving into those voices because they feel like they're alone. They don't know. They don't have a safe person to go to. They don't have maybe a student leader or a counselor, or they don't feel safe enough to go to mom or dad. So my prayer is that whether she's watching this tonight or she watches this on YouTube, that she would bring her thoughts to light, because hope is just around the corner. I mean, it's so true. Hope is just around the corner, and our feelings are true and they're real, but a lot of times they're not even facts. Joy does come in the morning.
Right.
Just a few nights ago, I had one of my very best friends that went on to be already with the Lord, a pastor friend of mine. Her daughter came on the live and she shared how Maria at 16 contemplated. I can't remember right now if she actually attempted. It's usually at 16 that they attempt. I believe she attempted, but just 6 months later, she said, she meets the love of her life, Rudy Gracia. They go to seminary together because she encounters Jesus. They start a church, which is one of the largest churches we have in South Florida today. I mean, her impact, the life she went on to live after that 16th chapter, right? It's so glorious. And I pray the same for you. I pray that your journey would continue to unfold, that you continue to find your voice. You're brave. I know that you're navigating between two majors, right? The last time we talked.
Yes.
So
International relations and political science.
yes,
Totally
girl.
nerdy.
Yes, you're gonna slay that. So I pray God's supernatural blessing and abundance over your life in that, in whatever path you decide to take. And let's maybe just one of the questions that I had for you was, What are your thoughts on what's robbing girls' identity today? What do you think is that one thing that maybe is robbing their identity, that they don't know really who they are?
I would say just sometimes it's just yourself. Like it's really your own insecurities that get in your way. Like I can't count the number of times like either me or my friends have been like, "Oh, I want to say this," or I want to do this, I want to stand up for this cause, or like do this thing, but I don't know how would people like, how would I look, how would people think of me. It's really just, you know, self-sabotage sometimes, I think. Of
Yeah.
course there are so many external factors in society, in social media, as we say so often, that like affect it, but sometimes it's you're really your own worst enemy. I think it's just being able to overcome that tiny voice in your head saying, oh, you can't do it, like you don't have the guts to do it, you don't have this, you don't have the intellect, you don't have the ability to be able to, you know, finally, you know, come out of your shell, so to speak, kind of be able to find yourself.
So true. I love your even your pizzazz and how you present that, your zeal. I'm watching you and I'm like watching you on a global stage talking one day. Literally, you're speaking, and that's what I see. Sam, just to end our time together, what would you maybe tell the girl that, because I know what I would tell her, but I feel like teen girls sometimes need to hear from another teen girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be more open to hearing from you.
Right.
What would you maybe tell the girl that is going through a hard circumstance, or she's maybe being abused and she hasn't brought it to light? We know that trauma is one of the biggest reasons for
Mm-hmm.
suicide, and the reasons we're even doing these lives is September is Global Suicide Awareness Month.
Right.
Thankfully, we have that. So that's what we're doing these lives, is to bring awareness to this pandemic that is taking so many of our girls. Every 40 seconds, there is a suicide on the planet, and no one is talking about it. And when that suicide happens, it's the ending of purpose, dreams,
Mm-hmm.
a wife, a global activist, a future leader, a future CEO, a future mom. So we know that trauma leads to that: bullying, trauma, abuse, and we see that it's 1 in 3 girls by the age of 10. So maybe from your perspective as a teen girl, a teen champion, what would you tell that girl that maybe hasn't brought it to light? It's happening to her. I read that abuse has increased by 29%
Mm-hmm.
since the pandemic. So more girls are trapped with their abuser. What words would you encourage her so that she could bring it to light and stop the abuse if she can?
Great question. That's really heavy, and that's
It is.
insanely. I cannot imagine what it must be like to be in that situation. The best I could say is that like the cliches are true. Like, I know it's like, you know, kind of, it gets redundant to hear and kind of like, you know, overused to hear like, oh, you know, be able to tell someone or like just stand up, when it's like not that easy, especially in situations such as that. But I think that, you know, the idea that you're not alone, there's so many resources and so many people you can talk to be able to get out of situations like that, and just to be able to stand your ground, and just to know, like, you know, kind of breathe and understand that it's okay to not be okay. Like, you know, it's no weakness that you're in a situation like this. It's no, like, these circumstances vary so much, and it's no reflection on your character that you're in a situation like this. It's certainly not your fault.
Yes.
Just to understand that, you know, like, what happened to you is not who you are, I guess. Like, you are so much stronger, you're so much, you know, braver than the circumstance you're going through, and
Yes.
like, you will get through this eventually. You
Yes.
may need help. Certainly you may need help. There's no shame in asking for that help, but you will get through this.
You will get through it. It will heal. We know Jesus personally, and we have learned that he is the ultimate healer. We encourage you, bring it to light. You cannot heal what you don't acknowledge. And you may not feel safe enough to bring it to light. We know that 8 out of 10 situations that happen in abuse is with someone that you know, someone from your family. So talk to a teacher. DM us here at Tiaras. We have counselors that volunteer with us to help you. They will do a private Zoom call with you.
Mm-hmm.
Licensed counselors. Go to your local student ministry and talk to the pastor there or one of the leaders. Maybe it's that teacher. One of my favorite teachers was Mrs. Forbes, my calculus teacher, from Jamaica, actually. She was from Jamaica as well. Talk to your favorite teacher. You are not alone. But the key is to bring it to light so that it can stop. And like Samantha said, it's not your fault. You are more than this. It is one chapter in your story. And the God that I serve has taught me that He repurposes all pain. He has this way of transforming everything that happens to us, meant for evil, for good. So I encourage you, just like Rosie Rivera encouraged us just a few nights ago, exchange your ashes for His beauty. Because the Bible says in Psalm 139 that you and I, Samantha and I, we are beautifully and wonderfully made on purpose by the Creator that made everything that you see, the sunset, the moon, the stars, the earth. His hands made you and I. His hands made Sam's life. And He loves you and I in such an intimate way. I promise you, if you want to make God the center of your life, if you want to, just even where you are, you don't feel like you can talk to someone, talk to God. Talk to God. Ask Him to make Himself real to you. He is a very personal God, a very tender God, a very intentional God. And He loves you. You matter to Him. We have a free digital conference for every girl on the planet. It is on TiarasGirls.com. Sam is part of that experience, as well as Ingrid Rosario, one of my best friends in life. You're going to see just a group of women come together to offer you a free experience, which is a digital experience. It's our conference on TiarasGirls.com, designed with the teen girl in mind. You can register that teen in your life for this free conference. You can even order her a royal box if you'd like. But Sam and I will be part of that experience. And maybe you want to host a watch party, a girl watch party. I know that there's a few groups that have signed up from California to Puerto Rico, where they're going to watch the experience together. We just want you to know that you were God's idea. The girl was God's idea. And the earth doesn't act like it many times, right, Sam?
Right. Oh, Lord knows.
A
Yes.
lot of oppression on our earth. There's some countries where we're not even allowed to drive yet, or speak, or get an education. So you go all the way, Miss Samantha Lowe. I know that your mom is one of the women that I most highly regard. She is a highly educated woman, a woman of God. And I know that God has huge plans and a purpose for your life. So stay the course, okay? Stay
Yeah.
the course. You promise?
I'll certainly try. Crazy world we live in, but yes, I certainly will.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share before we wrap up our live?
I guess especially in terms of like the idea of kind of finding your voice as a teenager, something that like a verse that always stuck out to me because, you know, being a Christian, certain verses really like pop out and kind of speak to you. It's like First Timothy 4:12, which says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." So it always just like you're never too young to change the world, kind of. I know it sounds super cliche and super
Yeah.
Hallmark movie, but I
Yeah.
really do believe that, you know, the youth is really looked down on, kind of, as you know, you're young, you're immature, you don't understand what's going on. But I do believe that there's power in our, you know, in our generation, especially since we're the up and comers. So, you know,
Yes. I believe it too. I'm with you. You have the power to change the world. So believe it with us. Leave your mark. There's only one you. Only one you. The last time I checked, nobody else has your fingerprint. So we leave you with that thought. And again, you can register the teen in your life on tiarasgirls.com for free. English, Spanish, very soon French and Creole. God bless you guys. Thank you, Sam, for
of
sharing your voice with
course,
us.
it was a pleasure.
Okay. Love you. Stay
Love you
safe.
too.
Bye.
Bye.